They didn't invade with ships or war cries. They came with treaties, contracts, smiles dipped in poison. The Dominion of Virexius introduced themselves as saviors, diplomats cloaked in silver robes offering elevation to Earth's newly unified governments. They promised energy, cures for cancer, lifespan expansions, and Earth, still licking the wounds of its last century of civil war, took the deal. For a price. That price was sovereignty. That price was freedom. We didn't see the shackles at first. They were polite about it. Our leaders were invited into council chambers. Our cities were optimized. Our history books were revised for accuracy. Before we knew it, flags changed, laws shifted, currency turned digital. Then the disappearances started. At first it was dissenters. Then journalists. Then anyone who asked questions. By the time the first human work zones appeared on off-world colonies, it was already too late. They branded us with work IDs, genetic tags, suppressor chips. They called it integration. We called it the end. I was 16 when they took my father. Said he'd violated Harmony Code 19 by harboring pre-Dominion literature. It was a diary. He wrote poetry. They dragged him out in front of the whole block. I never saw him again. That night I stopped being a boy. I started becoming something else. My name's Ren. No number. Not anymore. They tried to erase that too. But names are stronger than chains. The camps they built for us off-world weren't cages. They were factories. For obedience. Uniform housing, 12-hour shifts, education centers that taught us how to kneel before alien statues. They told us we were evolving. That emotion was a defect. But we remembered. The whispers started with the old ones. Veterans from Earth's resistance era. Men and women who knew how to vanish, how to kill without noise. They started teaching us, not with lectures, with scars. Every bruise was a lesson, every lash a sermon. We learned silence, we learned patience. We learned hate. And then he came. The others called him Cade. No surname, no history. Just a shadow in human skin. Said he'd escaped a Dominion black site on Loris Prime. Said he'd watched them inject his sister with mind-wipe serum, turn her into a smiling puppet. Said he'd never forget the sound she made when she forgot his name. He had fire in his voice. Not loud, just sharp. Like something waiting to cut. I followed him the first night we met. Didn't ask why, just did. We climbed into the ventilation shafts above Sector 7, dropped into the armory where they stored inactive tech. Scrapped suppressor cuffs, broken drones, rusted stun rods. We didn't take weapons. We took data. Blueprints, patrol schedules, distribution routes. Cade was building something, not a riot, a reckoning. He said words like strategic disruption and coordinated psychological targeting, but what he meant was simple. We'd make them bleed. But not yet. We had to wait. They taught us numbers, not names, thought they could reduce us to code. I became Unit 364, subgrade maintenance. Cade was 9001, special labor classification. Every day we smiled, every day we bowed, every day we memorized. The Dominion thought obedience was permanent. But even the sharpest collar wears down over time. One cycle, a new overseer arrived, bigger than the others, gleaming armor, no eyes, just black optics. His name was Harex. The way he looked at us was different. He didn't see tools. He saw threats. That meant he was right. On the 38th solar rotation of Sector K's rotation, Harex executed a child for dropping a fusion wrench. Didn't even blink. Just raised his grav lance and fired. The camp went silent. Even the walls seemed to flinch. That night, Cade spoke to us in the dark underhalls. "We stop tomorrow," he said. "No more waiting." Some wept. Some nodded. No one refused. We weren't an army. We were kindling. And tomorrow he'd strike the match. They expected silence the next morning, bent heads, empty eyes, compliance. Instead, they got song. It began as a whisper in Sector K. Just two voices humming an old Earth tune, something pre-Dominion. But in that monotone camp where even dreams were monitored, a melody was defiance. Within minutes, 50 voices joined, then hundreds. The melody turned into lyrics, lyrics into rhythm, rhythm into unity. Herrick stormed from the Overseer's tower, optics blazing red. He activated his gravity field, normally enough to bring a crowd to its knees. But no one knelt. I watched Cade climb the mess platform, arms raised like a conductor. "We are not numbers," he shouted. "We are names, we are memory, and today we stop being afraid." The guards moved. The first shot struck a woman in the chest. She fell without a sound, her blood a dark flower blooming across gray stone. That was the last Dominion shot of the day, because then the kindling caught. Everything we'd studied, the layouts, the blind spots, the timing of guard rotations, was activated in seconds. Hidden compartments opened in walls, scrap drones powered on, suppressor chips were short-circuited with black market dampeners. We didn't fight like soldiers, we fought like survivors. Crude, fast, overwhelming. One of the guards tried to radio for off-world support. Cade silenced him with a blowtorch to the comms rig. We cut power, jammed signals, turned their order into chaos. Herrick fought back, hard. His armor deflected bullets, his grav field ruptured bones. But he was one, and we were many. They'd built him to suppress 10,000. But not 10,000 with rage. He fell under a swarm of blows, wrench strikes, plasma coils, even bare fists. When the last punch landed, the camp was already burning. We opened the gates, not just to the outside, but to ourselves. News spread like wildfire across the system. In the days that followed, we found others. Camps we thought erased, colonies marked as in compliance. They weren't. They were waiting. Waiting for someone to go first. They joined us. One by one, planets began to flicker red on Dominion surveillance maps. Disrupted, unreachable, compromised. But they weren't compromised. They were waking up. I remember standing with Cade on a cliffside after we liberated Kiros Theta. He watched the sun rise over broken towers and said, "Names aren't just memory, Ren. They're declarations. If they can take our names, they can end us. But if we carry each other's names, really carry them, then we become unstoppable." I asked him what his real name was. He smiled, just barely. "Doesn't matter. What matters is what we become next." And I understood. We weren't fighting to go back to who we were. We were fighting to become something they'd never seen before. And they had no idea how to stop it. Rebellion wasn't clean. Freedom didn't come with fanfare or banners. It came with wounds, blood crusted under fingernails, burnt hands from plasma rigging, sleepless nights spent crawling through ducts to plant signal relays. We were a fleet of ghosts, burning through the Dominion's lies. Within a month, 7 human labor worlds had gone dark to Dominion surveillance. Each time they tried to retake one, they met improvised traps, hacked mech suits, and humans who no longer feared death. Cade didn't lead from above. He bled with us. Ate ration paste from dented tins, sharpened glass shards into blades. Taught us how to break suppression collars using only a pulse spike and a grounded copper wire. We became legend to each other. Names like Mira the Flame, who blew a Dominion crawler sky-high with a recycled fusion cell, or Jack Sixhands, the kid who learned to rig Dominion override keys in his sleep. But it wasn't enough. We needed more than strikes. We needed a message. So we hit Tarsus core, not for its value, but for its symbolism. It was the Dominion's cultural center, a world paved in glass and gold, home to their Enlightenment archives, which included, of course, our history. Scrubbed, Baudelarized, rewritten. We weren't insurgents. We were corrections. We infiltrated through the atmospheric maintenance systems, descending like spores. No explosions, no broadcasts, just silent replacement. Cade and I reached the central archive. I watched him stand before a hollow emitter displaying the evolution of Terran gratitude, a video loop showing a smiling child handing flowers to a Dominion overseer. He stared at it for a full minute, then punched his blade through the emitter. The loop died. The silence after felt like reverence. We uploaded our footage, camp footage, death footage, truth footage. Then we set the building to burn. By the time Dominion patrols arrived, the sky was full of ash. The Enlightenment archives turned to cinders, scattered by wind. They tried to spin it. Said it was terrorist vandalism. Said we were manipulated by outer sector radicals. But the footage had already gone viral in fringe systems. The story had already taken root. We weren't just numbers. We had names. We had scars. And we wore them like armor. The Dominion believed fear belonged to us. They forgot it could be taught in reverse. After Tarsus Core, we weren't just a rebellion. We were a myth, spreading like radiation through the galactic underlayers. The Dominion responded with force. Ships blacked out skies, camps were purged, entire settlements disappeared overnight. But every hammer they swung made our resolve harder. We learned to move before they could predict, struck supply chains, intercepted command signals, even mimicked their encryption to sow chaos in their ranks. And we started receiving messages. From non-human systems. Quiet, encrypted bursts. We've seen what you did on Tarsus. We remember your people. What they did to us, they now do to you. At first we thought it was a trap. But then came the proof. Coordinates. Resource caches, satellite override codes. Species the Dominion had long subdued began whispering to us. All of them had their own names erased, their own scars. We weren't alone anymore. Cade looked at one of the communiques and said, "They're not joining a war, they're reclaiming their ghosts." It wasn't about Earth anymore, it was about the erased. So we adapted our signal. No longer just Terran call signs, our broadcasts now bore the emblems of once fallen civilizations. Glyphs once banned by Dominion law. One by one, the lost banners rose again. And that's when the Dominion made their mistake. They hit Nova Veyron. It was a small resistance hub, mostly refugees, tech scavengers, families. They glassed it. No warnings, no demands. A burn from orbit demonstration, a reminder. We watched the footage in silence. I remember Cade's jaw tightening, eyes hollow. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, "No more myths, no more broadcasts. From now on, we strike names off the record." We became something else. Not vengeance. Execution. The first name we struck was Commodore Alvec. He'd ordered the Nova strike. We intercepted his flagship mid-jump, boarded it in 0G, and left a message carved into his command chair. "Remember our names." The galaxy did. After Alvec, the Dominion scrambled. High Command moved into deep space bunkers. Supply lines began to fractal into chaos. Governors changed transponders daily, hoping to stay off our lists. But we weren't hunting power. We were hunting names. Commanders, architects, judges, anyone who signed orders, ran camps, revised our history. We found them, we made them known, and we erased them. Our symbols spread, 3 jagged lines carved into metal, flesh walls, each one a name burned from the stars. They called us terrorists, fanatics, but their citizens began whispering our names like prayers, not out of fear, out of hope. The cracks widened. We liberated Kelsa Station without firing a shot. The garrison surrendered. Their captain asked only one thing before handing us the override codes. "Will you let us choose names again?" Cade said, "You never lost them. You just forgot where to look." More systems followed. Whole planets blacked out their Dominion relays, turned their antennas to the resistance signal, a low bandwidth pulse transmitting nothing but names. Names of the dead, names of the lost. One name every hour. We became their memorial. But the Dominion wasn't done. Their retaliation came with a name too. Praetor Zirin. She wasn't like the others. She didn't waste time with speeches. She struck with precision, hacked our signal, exposed safe houses, sabotaged air recyclers. In 3 weeks, we lost 6 nodes, hundreds of fighters. Then she captured Mira the Flame. She broadcast Mira's execution on every public Dominion channel. But what she didn't know, Mira's last words weren't a scream. They were coordinates. We followed them. Found a hidden comms relay buried under a Dominion museum. Used it to breach their capital relay chain. And there in the dark, as the system cracked open before us, we saw it. The list. They kept one too. Names of species erased, cultures extinguished, entire planets renamed. It wasn't just war. It was method, sanitized genocide. Cade stared at the screen. They thought they buried us in data. I answered, "We'll make it our weapon." That night, we didn't strike a ship. We struck their truth. We dumped the list across the stars, unfiltered, uncensored, every erased name, every erased world, and beside each, our mark, "Remember us." The dump shattered the veil. Every Dominion-controlled world awoke to it. Screens hijacked, broadcasts overrun, digital sky ads overwritten by names long considered myth or fiction. Names that weren't supposed to exist. The effect was immediate. Factories halted, transit systems froze, civilians, Dominion and non, stared into their terminals and wept, some out of guilt, others recognition. The Praetor's office issued a denial. Too late. Their silence collapsed. Within a day, uprisings flared on the fringes. Small at first, firebombs, hacktivist signals, then sabotage, rebellion. It wasn't our hand stirring them. It was their own reflection. On Vore 6, Dominion schoolchildren refused to recite the mandated pledge. On Kether Prime, miners blew the main shaft and painted our symbol in molten ore. Even Dominion soldiers began deserting. But the most striking event came on Halo's Reach, a broadcast. From Praetor Zirin. Her face filled the screen, tired, pale, her eye implants flickering. She didn't declare war. She begged. "Enough," she said. "What do you want?" Cade answered her on a private channel that wasn't private anymore. "We want your name." She hesitated. "What?" "You erased millions, you renamed planets, cultures, erased our stories, so now we want yours." The channel cut. An hour later, every Dominion node displayed the same message. Zirin name expunged by order of the Remnant. She vanished. No announcement, no funeral, just absence. And that silence was louder than all their speeches. We had flipped the script. The erasers were being erased. What followed Zirin's disappearance wasn't chaos. It was clarity. The Dominion structure, long rigid and absolute, began crumbling in layers. Without their praetor, without their lies, their commands fell flat. Entire divisions ceased to respond. Some turned their weapons inward. Others simply walked away. And from the rubble rose a new name. The Remnant. Not a military, not a government. A declaration. We weren't the resistance anymore. We were all who remained. Humans, aliens, hybrids, survivors from every erased archive. Our fleets expanded, patched from scrap yards and salvaged tech. Old Dominion ships now bore new markings, their hulls etched with languages once banned. Cade stopped being a leader. He became a myth. He refused titles, refused councils. But wherever the Remnant moved, his shadow stretched beside it. No longer a face on broadcasts, just a voice in the static. The Remnant remembers, the Remnant reclaims. That became our mantra. I led a strike on Caldrith Forge, one of the last Dominion cloning vats. It wasn't for victory, it was for closure. Inside, we found rows of half-formed bodies, clones shaped for labor, stripped of names before birth. We didn't kill them. We freed them, woke them gently, gave them stories, gave them choices. And for the first time, they asked something back. Can we have names? We wept. Dominion space shrank day by day. What once covered half the stars now flickered in patches of retreat. Their records corrupted, their flags burned, their capital, Virex, sealed itself behind quantum gates. But we had already won. Because even if we vanished tomorrow, they could never unhear the names we had shouted back into the void. And the void was now echoing them, the gates of Virex shattered like ancient glass. Not with weapons, with words. The remnant signal, pulsing louder than ever, broadcasted our manifesto across every Dominion channel. Not a threat, not a demand. A roll call. Names, one after another, human, alien, forgotten. Each name a victory, each syllable a rebellion, each pause a moment of silence for the erased. Inside the capital, the last loyal Dominion officials hid behind layers of code and force fields, but we didn't need to breach them. We bypassed their systems. We made their own history unrecognizable to them, every archive overwritten with truth, every monument reprogrammed to reflect the real faces behind their conquest. No bullets, no fire, just truth, unleashed like a flood. Cade stood at the edge of the central tower, looking over the city, once hailed as the galaxy's heart of order. Now it was lit with the glow of 1,000 lights, vigil beacons, each one a memory. I stood beside him. They'll try to rebuild. He nodded. Let them, but never again without names. The remnant never claimed thrones. We didn't declare a new empire. We didn't want it. We built schools, not forts, gardens, not walls, memorials, not statues. We told our children the whole story, the names of the monsters. And the names of the ones who fought back. My name is Ren. It's not a call sign, not a code. It's a promise. And as long as that name is spoken, no empire will ever erase us again. And enjoyed the rise of the remnant. Like, comment, and share your thoughts below. Who would you follow into rebellion? Subscribe for more gripping HFY tales where humanity speaks and the galaxy listens.